Good afternoon. Today I'll be talking about communication models, which is the first lecture in Communication 101. And this particular lecture we're going to talk about the different theoretical models of communication. And there's three main models I want to talk about today. And the first model I want to talk about is called the linear communication model. And the linear is the most simplistic model, and this model is saying that communication occurs in a straight line. So as an example is today, I'm the sender, I'm sending you a message, and I'm lecturing about communication models. And you are the receiver, and the message is going from point A to point B. So even the fact that this is a recorded or online presentation is a good example of a linear communication model. I'm communicating to you, and think of it as a one-way street. Meaning the communication starts here with me and it ends with you, and it doesn't go any further than that. And what this means is that the linear communication model doesn't include feedback. And so examples of feedback would be a question if you raise your hand, or let's say you have a confused look on your face and you are thinking, well, I don't understand. So linear communication model is one-way communication. It's often used when you have a command or a direct statement. It's also used in emergency situations in the military, paramedics, first aid, and healthcare, when it's a directive and you want one person to do something else and not have dialogue or discussion or decision making. The second model I want to talk about is interactive. And the interactive model is a model that has a slight delay. This is still, so now I'm communicating and I'm talking about the communication model, and I'm going to wait a moment and see if you have questions, and then you would raise your hand and ask your question. So a classic example of an interactive communication model would be when you send your friend a text message. Oh, I have a message, they read it, they decide they want to respond, but maybe they have to finish getting their child off to school, or they want to finish up typing up an email or reply to another friend first, and then they'll get back to you. So that would be an interactive communication model. You're getting feedback, but there's a delay. Okay, so the final model I want to talk about, and this is really the heart of communication, transactional. Okay. It's two-way communication, and I realize now I'm standing over the wording. So the transactional model is two-way communication, and it's occurring simultaneously. This is a key word. This is going to be on exam. So when you say transactional communication, it's simultaneous, meaning it's occurring all at the same time. There's a lot of energy. So while I'm sending this message about the transactional communication model, you're receiving it at the same time, formulating reaction. Maybe you already want to ask a question, and you're sending feedback to me while I'm communicating and conveying this message. And so it's saying that feedback can be verbal and nonverbal, and it occurs all at the same time. So an example would be face-to-face communication. While I'm talking, you're also receiving and sending the message back. Sometimes communication can be solely nonverbal, where you give someone a look and they look back at you. That's transactional communication model, sending and receiving all at the same time. So I tend to call that, well, I think the interactive would be two-way. You send a message, and the person receives it, they send a reply. Whereas the transactional, everything's all in the same, all lanes are driving like this, and we're adapting and adjusting to feedback as we go along. So think of it as riding some go-karts on a track or bumper cars, and you're just all kind of going different ways to see what type of reaction or feedback you can get. So the linear communication model is the most simplistic. Then we have the interactive, which is two-way. It's delayed and there's feedback. And then the transactional model it's occurring simultaneously, and while I'm sending a message, you're receiving, and also sending a message while I'm receiving. And so this is the premise of all communication that takes place in communication course this quarter. And there will be times when we have examples of linear communication model. Let's say you post something on Facebook and you don't want anyone to leave comments, and so you adjust your settings just to put a message out there. Whereas interactive, you post it on Facebook and maybe a couple friends reply later in the day. It's a type of feedback, and but there's a delay. Where transactional communication model would be maybe doing FaceTime on your FaceTime or Skyping or any type of medium where you can look and correspond with that person in real time with the use of media, or face-to-face communication. So that's it for today. Linear, interactive, and transactional. And one of the key words to remember is that the transactional, it's occurring simultaneous, and that's a cornerstone of what will unravel and unwrap this quarter.